everyone, Fitz here, just interrupting to welcome you guys to my new show After the Stream, where I'm going to talk a little bit more about games after I stream them. This week's stream was RimWorld, so I hope you enjoy. RimWorld is a space colony management game in a genre that's been popping up recently I like to call trying to make Dwarf Fortress playable. If you don't know what Dwarf Fortress is, oh, let me show you a magical world. Here's an actual screenshot from the game Dwarf Fortress. If you haven't played the game, you're probably very confused, so let me break it down for you. Up here in the right, we have our general occult storage where we keep the ghosts away from the humans. Up in the top left, we have what looks to be some type of battery with bees in the middle. Our crop of X's is coming in well? All jokes aside, I have absolutely no idea what's going on here, and I'm pretty sure that symbol isn't even on a keyboard. Nevertheless, Dwarf Fortress is a great game, even one that I want to play one day, but that doesn't mean that the learning curve is in a solid brick wall. That's where RimWorld comes in, and all the other games that are trying to do this. They're trying to make the Dwarf Fortress formula a little easier to understand, while trying to keep the game as complex as possible. And boy do they succeed, but that's a little bit of a spoiler that we'll get to later. For now, let's start at the beginning. When you start RimWorld, you'll be greeted by this screen and the pretty sweet background music that you've been listening to since the start of this video. After selecting New Game, you'll be thrown into the scenario selection. The current built-in scenarios are interesting, but there's only 3 of them. You can start with 3 people that crash landed, 1 rich person, or a tribe of 5 people with low tech. The real cool thing here is that there's a pretty robust scenario editor that you can dig into at any time. Want to create a scenario where your colonists are religious fanatics to a gun god that they must appease by only using guns? Or maybe you want a colonist full of vegans and the one meat eater that can't eat plants? Or maybe you just want one colonist named Bubsy who used to be a Russian spy? Whatever weird situations you want to create, the scenario editor is here for you, and you can even share your creations on the Steam Workshop page. After choosing a scenario, you'll be asked to choose a storyteller, which are RimWorld's way of modifying difficulty. They affect the way that random events happen in your game, from raids to drop pods. Cassandra will make a nice smooth difficulty curve for you, Phoebe will make things really easy, and Randy, unsurprisingly, will make it completely random. After choosing either one of these storytellers, or the one Dick, you're asked to choose a difficulty level. The difficulties in the game range from free play, which is essentially a sandbox mode, to extreme, which the game self-describes as digital suffering. But I want you to pay close attention to the screen here and notice that not a single one of these difficulties is easy. This game is not meant to be easy. It is the farthest thing from easy, and if you're prone to frustration, this may not be the game for you. But if you enjoy a challenge and watching every character that you've grown to love die horrible deaths, then go ahead and click man mode and start the game. At least that's what I'd want to say. There's still 3 screens left. First, you have to pick a seed, which is just any name or number or anything you really want to put in that the game will use as a seed to make a map for you. After you create your map, you'll have to pick a starting point. There are mountains, rainforests, tundras, deserts, and all of them have their strengths and weaknesses. After that, you have to pick your colonists, or colonists, depending on what scenario you've run. You can essentially just hit the randomize button. There are mods to make it so you can specifically customize these things, but for now, you just have to keep hitting the random button until you find someone that actually looks interesting or someone that makes the game either easier or harder depending on what you want. This is a pretty massive amount of information just to start a game. You have to pick a scenario, a difficulty, a storyteller, whether you want Iron Man mode on or off. You have to pick a seed, a map, where you want to spawn on the map, and even just one of your colonists has a backstory, a childhood, adulthood, what they're incapable of, traits and skills of everything in the game, their starting health conditions, and relationships with other people in the world. For a game whose greatest strength is trying to tear down the brick wall that is Dwarf Fortress's difficulty curve, they're doing a pretty good job of building up their own. And while I know that complexity is a base part of this game, I do think a quick play option may have made this easier for more casual players to get into it. But finally, after all this, we can actually get into the game. What time is it at this point? How far are we into this video? Great, fantastic, awesome. At first glance, you're probably going to get a lot of the same feelings that you did when you first saw Dwarf Fortress. And you'll probably start asking the same questions that everyone does when they first start this game. The real questions, like, where are my legs? Why did I order 5 packages off Amazon Prime before I got here? Where are that emu's legs? Why did I bring a bunch of rocks to this planet? But seriously, where are my legs? Where are my arms? But once you get past all the terrifying implications the art style brings, you'll start making your first colony. You'll set up a dumping zone and a stockpile zone, and you'll make your first little square house. This to me invoked a lot of the first time I played Minecraft, where you'll eventually find out that that house was awful, and that everything you did about it was completely wrong and completely inefficient. But this knowledge only comes later, after the hundreds of horrible deaths we've talked about. And after this, you'll start a little farm, and everything will look like it's going well, with just you and your dog and your small little farmhouse on a brand new world. Or at least that's how you think you'd feel in this situation. I don't know what it is about these RimWorld colonists, but they are always in a bad mood. And when this first happens, you'll wonder why. And you'll click on their little tag and you'll go underneath their knees and you'll see why. And without a doubt, I bet you that it's they ate without a table, they shared a room, their room is dirty, or they're in a little bit of pain. And if you're like me, your first response will always be, "Listen here, you little But knowing that won't help, you set off on a quest to make them happy again. You give them orders to make tables, you clean and separate their rooms, and you find ways to mitigate their pain. But this stuff takes time, and in that time, you'll probably meet your first colonist, who will without a doubt insult your current colonist, putting them both in a worse mood. And while you're trying to fix that relationship and deal with the plethora of other problems your colonists have, your first raid will show up. And even though the first raid is always just some 78-year-old man with cataracts and a knife coming to attack your fortress, one of your colonists will take it upon themselves to get as injured as humanly possible, who will then immediately get infected. This will require constant care from one of your other colonists, who will constantly complain about the blood in the medical room. And if you're not careful, this will cause your doctor to snap, who will then begin to beat the life out of his previous patient. And after he's done with him, he will always bust out of the medical room with a gun and begin shooting down your other colonists, who even if they eventually take him down, will take injuries themselves, who will cause them to snap and start burning down all of your crops. And without anyone to put out the fire will spread from your crops to your houses to eventually your stockpile, where you'll lose absolutely everything you've saved up to this point. And if you made the horrible mistake of playing on man mode like I told you to, well, then you're starting over from the beginning. And that's kinda it. Not to say that there isn't more to do in the game. There's more events and skills that your colonists can learn, but I mean, that's the basis of it. Every time you start up a new game, you're gonna make a bunch of new colonists, make houses, and try to keep them all happy. It's kinda a little bit like Sims on steroids. And don't think that's a bad thing, it's a great thing. The simple objective means that you'll spend hours at work or at school trying to think of a better way to make your colonists survive longer. You'll think of new layouts for your colony, you'll think of new ways to make farms, you'll think of new technologies to rush and where to build your walls and where you even want to put your colonist on the map. But where the game really shines is that it's a story game, and by that I mean it's a game that creates its own narrative. I mean, obviously there's one built into your scenario, but that's not the one you're going to remember. You're going to tell your friends that your colonist Steve stabbed his own wife in the face after snapping because the dog bit him. You're going to tell your friends about the raid you fought off with only sticks by just repairing the door constantly while the man tried to get in. You're going to tell them about the one guy who lived out the rest of his days by himself until you were finally able to build the ship to get him off-world. There are painfully few of these games, and they're very few and far between. The last one we got that I can think of is XCOM 2. But unlike XCOM, RimWorld is a much shorter game scenario-wise, and I think that helps it out a lot, because every time you die, you're going to come back wondering what you can do better. Where in XCOM, you come back frustrated that you lost 50 hours of your life. Not to say one system is better than the other, but for RimWorld I think this works better for them. And this is the reason this game more than XCOM needs to be played on Iron Man mode. If you reload every time one of your characters snaps, or every time you shoot one of your own characters in the back, you can get through this game incredibly quickly. All in all, RimWorld is an amazing game, and I have much more to say about it, but this video's length is getting a bit out of hand. It's a game with an absolutely massive amount of player choice that even bleeds into just starting the game. It's a game that creates its own narrative and its own stories with its own characters that you'll learn to love as time goes on. It's revived the whole management subgenre for me, and really, what else could you ask for in a game? But I think that's all I'm going to say about RimWorld for now. If you want to watch me on Twitch or see what I'm doing, my follow links are here, and if you leave a positive or negative comment, I'm sure I'll respond. See ya!